Great. Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. And thank you to all of our witnesses for being here today to talk about this incredibly important topic. The past 18 months have been some of the most consequential for Europe in the decades since World War II. When Vladimir Putin launched his illegal war, he started the largest conflict on the continent we've seen since World War II. Europe was largely caught off guard and is handicapped by its dependence on Russian energy. As a result, Europe has been forced to reckon with and recalibrate its approach toward its own security. Through our strategic and coordinated efforts on military and humanitarian support, as well as sanctions, the West has helped Ukraine resist this brutal aggression and repression by a despot. This is demonstrating the power of the transatlantic cooperation. The war in Ukraine has unsurprisingly resulted in the deterioration of Russian-European relations. However, it has also served as an inflection point in Europe's relationship with the People's Republic of China. Throughout Moscow's campaign of aggression, Beijing has opted to consistently provide Putin with economic and diplomatic cover, while turning a blind eye to Russia's atrocities on the Ukrainian people. While tensions between Europe and the People's Republic of China had already been on the rise, this no-limits partnership between Xi Jinping and Putin has finally raised alarms in Europe on the PRC's malign ambitions after years of focusing purely on the economic benefits of Chinese engagement. Encouragingly, leaders like EU Commission President von der Leyen have shown that some in Europe are waking up to the threat that the CCP poses. In March, von der Leyen proposed an ambitious course correction for Europe's economic approach towards the PRC, focusing on strengthening the EU's inbound investment screening and export control regulations, and a push for a new outbound investment regime. Additionally, the EU-China Comprehensive Agreement on Investment has rightfully been put on ice, and that should remain the case. And the EU, along with the United States, is far more focused on economic coercion after the People's Republic of China's restriction of Lithuanian goods as punishment for allowing Taiwan to open a de facto embassy there. Individual countries have also taken matters into their own hands, from Netherlands restricting its semiconductor technology to Ireland shutting down a Chinese overseas police station. These have all been welcome efforts. However, given the divide in Europe on how to address the PRC, it remains to be seen whether it can develop a coherent long-term strategy that delivers bold policy actions at both the EU and member state levels. Over the last 8 months, I've been disappointed to see European leaders make visits to Beijing with large business delegations to kiss the ring of Xi Jinping, all in the name of expanding business ties and access to the massive Chinese market. Some, and this includes President Biden as well, believe that rewarding Xi with a more diplomatic engagement and strengthened economic ties is the necessary policy prescription to get him to act responsibly, as well as play a positive role in ending the conflict in Ukraine. This is a grave miscalculation that only serves to strengthen Xi's hand while showcasing a divide within Europe and a lack of confidence across the Atlantic. It is critical that Europe and the U.S. are aligned both on the risks that the CCP poses to our mutual security and what we can do together to address it. Forums like the U.S.-EU Trade and Technology Council, or TTC, can be important for that alignment, but only to the extent that they produce tangible results. I was also glad to see that last year's NATO strategic concept covered the threats that the PRC poses to the alliance. Now we need to ask whether the words we put into action. She knows that it is our system of alliances and partnerships that provides us with a distinct advantage over autocratic and authoritarian regimes. And this is fundamental. The single biggest advantage that we have is our system of alliances with countries in Europe and around the world. That is not something that the PRC can replicate. As a result, She will stop at nothing to expand the PRC's malign influence in the continent and leverage economic vulnerabilities to drive a wedge between the U.S. and Europe in pursuit of its strategic goals. We must not allow the PRC to be successful in this endeavor. Let's be clear. There can be nuances in our approaches, but there cannot be an urgency gap between us. Given the PRC's rapidly expanding military, its ambitions to be the world's dominating power by the year 2049, and its increasingly hostile rhetoric and actions towards Taiwan, the time to take serious action to deter the PRC is now, not in 5 to 10 years. The PRC's challenge is too big for either side of the Atlantic to respond alone. Neither the United States nor Europe want an international order dictated by the People's Republic of China. But whether we live in that order is up to us. It will ultimately come down to the extent of our resolve and our ability to coordinate to meet this challenge head-on together. I look forward to hearing from our panel of witnesses today on how we can strengthen the transatlantic cooperation and work together to combat the CCP's malign influence and aggression. Thank you, Madam Chairman.